These are some Dinar Guru updates from Caparoni. There's no chance of a significant RV, too much dinar in circulation. Only with the success of Iraq's economy can the dinar go up in value. Iraq has lots of work to do. Iraq has many laws to pass to create the conditions for investors to come in and rebuild the economy. All right, Mark Z via PDK question: do you think the RV will happen this month, Mark? Mark Z says, I think it will happen this month, but I have been wrong before. Pimpy article quote: Al Kazimi's advisor says there's no change in the dollar exchange rate. Still talking about the rate change. Why? If you're saying this rate change is not going to happen this year, why do you continue to talk about it? That doesn't make any sense. If you're trying to tell us the rate change is supposed to stay the same for the next 3 to 5 years, then why are you talking about it? Obviously, it's being talked about between the powers that be, and it's being talked about a lot to the point that this guy has to keep coming out and saying that it is not happening. So we will see. All right, Mark Z via PDK, we are still seeing solid movement, and that makes me feel warm and fuzzy. My sources are in a much better frame of mind about where we are than they have ever been. It's a slow, steady rollout, not as fast as we would like, but it is rolling out. Hopefully by the weekend we see the release of 800 numbers and links. This is just based on the progress we have seen so far. For those of you following the Eid holiday in Iraq, it ends on Friday, and there's been a lot of documentation and articles in Iraqi news that they had wanted to get redemption instructions before the holiday. It didn't happen, but this Friday timing fits with what we are seeing, and we are watching it closely. Frank26 says, I see people calling me about bonds. Bonds? What about bonds? Frank says, yeah, well, you know they're doing them, and that means it's going to happen. What's going to happen? What does bonds have to do with the Iraqi dinar monetary reform? Frank says, I'm not making fun of anybody, but you have to be careful when you get your where you get your information. Some guy called me and said, hey, Frank, the paymasters just approved the monetary reform. Paymasters of what? Frank, the GCR is on. The what? Frank, they just signed the NDA. What? Frank, the non-disclosure agreement has to do with any of this. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, Frank says. Mountain Goat article quote: Al Kazimi's advisor not to rely on oil prices because they are unstable to change the dollar exchange rate against the Iraqi dinar. What I believe Saleh is saying is that they should take the dinar off the de facto peg to the dollar as it is fixed and dependent on oil prices. We know the only way to do this is to reinstate it back on the Forex, put it in a basket of the 5 other currencies, and get off the sole peg to the US dollar, then to float it. This way it will not be subject to oil prices alone. This should have been done years ago. All right, Caparoni via Zig, there will never be an RV of the Iraqi dinar. It's just not how monetary policy works. And as I've already mentioned, there's too much currency in circulation. In the talk of reducing the money supply, I can't be done because they currently use the auctions to maintain the exchange rate, which is a balance between dinar and dollar. The only way they can reduce the money supply is to float the currency and allow it to gradually rise over time. At the same time, they could reduce the currency. Caparoni continued, said, but again, they have to float the currency first, make it internationally recognized so that they have an alternative to the auctions before they could ever reduce the money supply. I don't expect anything to happen this year because Iraq doesn't pass laws and create any condition for investors to come in. If you read any of the articles or news coming out of Iraq, you will see it is nothing but complaints about how difficult it is to do business with Iraq. All right, Breitling says, there's a question for Breitling. Would you please explain the difference between a managed float and a free market float? Breitling says Iraq has a couple of options depending on the business strategic partnerships they have. If it gets to the point to where it's too messy, everything is moving too much, they're going with a managed float. But if the markets open up and they're looking at what you and I are looking at, where the world's money supply is going to double by 2032, and they want a real market rate, all it is that's going to dictate for you is the speed of the value going up. That's going to dictate how long you're in this investment. It's not a negative thing. You do not want to be in an investment forever. There's more opportunity coming down in completely different sectors. Then Iraq will blow away what you and I are doing, especially if it revalues and you have money. It's a game changer. You need to have an exit strategy. All right, Mark Z via PDK, there's tremendous amount of disinformation being sown right now. You need to do your due diligence and not have a knee-jerk reaction when you hear things. That it has gotten this crazy means we are close. There is no negative news. Things are still moving, just not as quickly as we would all like.